Follow your passion and you'll never have to work a day in your life is terrible advice. In this video, I'm explaining why following your passion will keep you poor and what you should do instead to become financially free. So what I found to be way more effective to follow is this. Instead of follow your passion, which by definition is ambiguous because is passion something we have to find? Are we born with it? Can we have more than one passion? So instead of finding your passion, you need to build crafted passion. And yes, there is a difference. The easiest way to create crafted passion is to base it on your interest. So what's the difference between interest and passion? Let's say you like counting coconuts. You might think, yeah, this is fun, it's cool, but I wouldn't say I'm passionate about it. Then that's an A-OK thought. But it becomes a problem if you start thinking, I'm not super passionate about counting coconuts, so I'm just gonna wait for something else that I'm really excited and passionate about. Because at that point, that's when you know that you fell for the passion lie that's been told by all the gurus out there. Here's what I think is the actual truth. Developing crafted passion begins with a choice. You choose an interest and you work on it a lot, and then it becomes a crafted passion. And the reason crafted passion is better than just passion is because of this cycle. Taking action generates quantity, which generates quality, which generates motivation, which generates crafted passion, which in turn creates more action. If you just wait for passion, well, you might be waiting forever. So now you're probably thinking, I have 100 things that I'm interested in. How do I choose the right one? What if I choose the wrong one? So it all boils down to understanding this, the market, which operates on the fundamental principle that someone has a problem and someone has a solution to that problem, and then they both meet. It's demand and supply, which is what ultimately determines your success and wealth. Let's say you love to make magic lamps, but if no one demands and buys your magic lamps, no matter how cool they look, you won't make any money. You need to pick an interest where what you can offer has a high demand for it and a low supply of it. Basically somewhere in this gap here. Because in here, the buyer is willing to pay a higher price for your solution because there aren't many other solutions available. And I'll show you how you can find this gap later. That's why you need to transform your thought process from what can the world offer me for my passion to what can I offer the world. And yeah, I know it's tough to do because we're all a little egocentric, it's human nature, but you kinda have to. Like, do you think at 7 years old I dreamed of building a data company, a newsletter business, or a startup accelerator? Of course not, but I saw the gap for it. But just because it wasn't my dream at 7, it doesn't mean I don't wake up excited every day to work. I absolutely love what I do, but it doesn't mean that I'm necessarily passionate about data. And the funny thing is, back when I believed that I had to find something that I was passionate about, none of the projects that I built during that time became successful because I was always missing the gap. So how can you find the gap? But first, if you want to learn more stuff like this so you can live a wealthier and healthier life, sign up for my free weekly newsletter, link below. So finding your gap is actually the easy part. And despite what you might think, gaps exist in every single industry, from garbage collection to software development. There will always be problems that can be solved or made easier. If you don't believe me, let's take a look at one of the oldest industries in the world, books. They've been around since 500 BC, and surely you might think that after thousands and thousands of years in development, from manuscripts to paperbacks to hardcover to e-readers, there's nothing else that we can innovate, right? Well, a gap just opened up with Apple's Vision Pro. Spatial computing and VR is so early stage that you can completely redesign how people consume books. So how can you find the gap in your industry or interest? The easiest way is to actively look for problems that exist at your job or hobby. Actively look for little annoyances, repetitive actions, or any cracks that you wish were patched. Play to your strengths. You're not gonna get anywhere by picking an industry or interest at random. I can't even count the number of times when I thought, golly, I wish there was an electric plant or something, or something that counted coconuts for me. But the problem is, I don't know these industries, so I wouldn't do well in them. And that's why it would be more effective and I would see more rewards if I just dove deeper into what I already knew. For me, that meant the finance industry. I studied economics and worked on Wall Street, and I witnessed the biggest scam being run in plain sight. The finance industry intentionally makes finance hard to understand, so everyday people struggle financially, thus making more money for big banks. That was the problem. And during my research, I couldn't find a lot of informative yet entertaining financial education resources available. That was the gap, so I took action with this YouTube channel. So 2 reasons that I rarely talk about how I grew so quickly on YouTube and that I was able to replace my full-time job in 6 months is this. 1, it's because of the crafted passion cycle. Action leads to quantity, which leads to quality, which leads to motivation, which leads to crafted passion, which in turn creates more action. And 2, at the time, I noticed that a lot of existing finance videos on YouTube were dry and boring. So I approached it differently. I made mine engaging and unique with exciting background music and sound effects. Like this scene is now sad and emotional, but now this scene is super energetic and powerful. My videos really leveled up after I started using Epidemic Sound, which has a huge library of 40,000 tracks and 90,000 sound effects that you can use for your videos with new tracks added every week. So basically when I'm editing my videos, I just browse my preferred music, genre, mood, or theme, and if I find something that I like, I can easily find similar tracks to that. And the best part is, I don't have to worry about copyright strikes or video takedowns, which means I can still monetize my videos. And I love that with just one account on Epidemic Sound, I can use it on other platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, and podcast. So if you want to level up your videos, click the link in my bio to get a free 30-day trial. Everything you post during your trial is protected, even if you cancel. And thank you to Epidemic Sound for sponsoring this part of the video. So here's why I said finding the gap was the easy part. Anyone can find something in their industry or interest that needs to be improved, but 99% of people miss the second thing that separates those who succeed and those who fail. Do you think Mark Zuckerberg was the only person to think of Facebook? Or that Steve Jobs was the first person to think, I wish there was a way we can carry our entire music collection in our pocket? No. Before Facebook, there was Friendster, MySpace, and Second Life. Before the iPod, there was Yep, Creative Nomad, and iAudio. So what was the one commonality between Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs? And it's not that they were both super intelligent. In fact, studies show that this particular trait that I'm talking about, which they both have, is a better predictor for success, even more so than intelligence. So what set them apart is that they had grit. They had the drive to act on the gap that they discovered. For every person that acts and brings something to the market, there will be hundreds of others who had similar ideas, but just didn't act on them. You want to be that 1 in 100, not the other 99 that are looking and thinking, that could have been me. So once you have your list of problems and gaps within your industry and interest, brainstorm the ways that you can solve these problems. Build a scrappy version of the offer and then test it in the market. And now is when the scary realization sets in. Let's say you just spent weeks crafting something that you're super proud of and you have poured your soul into, but no one wants to buy it. So what do? Well, first, most people would break down in a corner, which is totally fine. Then second, most people don't want to give up, so they keep pushing the product, hoping that one day it will take off. Look, the thing you need to realize is that when it comes to business, you need to follow logic, not emotion. Emotion is wonderful in life, it's amazing, but it won't help you in business. Never be too close or so emotionally attached to your baby project that you always just blatantly reject the idea that it's just a bad idea or that it needs to be improved. So logically, you have 2 options if no one demands your product. You can either refine and improve it, or throw it out and try to solve a different gap. And that's not a bad thing. You've learned something. You didn't fail, you just found 10,000 ways that didn't work. In fact, some of the best companies in the world pivoted from their initial ideas several times. Instagram initially had nothing to do with pictures or videos. It was originally called Bourbon, yes, like the drink, and it let users make hangout plans. But it kinda sucked. But instead of giving up, the founders kept tinkering and eventually turned it into what we know today, a photo and video sharing platform. YouTube started as a dating site. Nintendo originally sold cards. Shopify was a snowboard company. The best business ideas evolve and grow over time. Following your passion limits what you can become, because you'll always be like, well, if I don't enjoy it, then I won't do it. But the thing that you're not extremely passionate about, that thing that you're only interested in, could end up transforming your entire life. And all you needed to do was to take the first step. And for the longest time, I struggled to take the first step because it was just hard. But things have completely turned around in the past few years. Find out how I tricked my brain to love doing hard things effortlessly that transformed my life.